Welcome to another in the series, Sip and Chat, a place where we talk about the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. It's our pleasure this afternoon to be coming into your homes and to be talking about the goodness of the Lord. Welcome to another in the series, Sip and Chat, a place where we talk about the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. But more so, we pay a closer attention to life issues and how they affect us psychologically, socially, emotionally, and just how we can become better persons. I'm your host, Dr. Lily Tomlinson, and it's always my pleasure to join you in your living rooms, wherever you're watching from. Welcome to another in the series of Sip and a Chat. This afternoon, we want to focus on some small things in life that make a whole lot of difference. The simple things. And we will take our discussion to where we look at a small animal, an animal that for many persons looks so insignificant, but has taught us so many profound lessons that we can use in life. A famous writer once said, courage isn't always a lion's roar. It's also the silence of an ant working patiently, persistently, and never giving up. Can I repeat that for my viewers? Courage isn't always a lion's roar. It's also the silence of an ant working patiently, persistently, and never giving up. Sometimes we're so busy in the hustle and bustle of life that we do not stop to reflect on the small lessons that life tries to teach us, whether it be through things, through nature, through animals, whatever it is, the small things that makes a difference. It is the little things in life that make the biggest difference. Think about an inches on a door. So many times we go and we admire the door, we admire its width, its texture, even the way the glass is, how it reflects. But very often we don't pay a lot of attention to the inches on the door because it's small. But I want us all to understand that no matter how the door is, inches are needed to keep the door in place. Entrepreneur and author William Clement Stone said, big doors swing on small inches. I've heard this phrase many times, but undoubtedly, it is in recent times, even during our COVID period, that we are able to reflect on how important it is to pay attention to the small things. This afternoon, we want to reflect on a scripture passage that is taken from Proverbs chapter 6, verse 6. Think about it. Solomon was one of the wisest men that ever lived. We know about his many accomplishments, the opulence of his kingdom. He was a wise man. And he wrote quite a few passages and books in the Bible as well. And Solomon said something that we find very important. Think about how huge a great man is in terms of stature. We think about great men in terms of their size and so on. But Solomon, when in making an analogy to give man wisdom, he never went to the elephant. He never went to the lion. He said to the man, he said, go to the ant, thou sluggard. Consider her ways and be wise. Yes, a very small ant is where Solomon led humanity as it relates to getting wisdom. And so this afternoon, we want to spend some closer attention to the ant. Small, but teaches us so many very important lessons. In fact, many great management strategies, many great speakers have oftentimes directed us to study the ways of the ant and be wise. Ants are small insects that live in large groups or colonies. Their group home is usually a system of underground tunnels and chambers, nothing much above the surface, but sometimes deep in some borrowed areas, with moles and formed out of dirt or sand. See, everything there is so looking, appearing so insignificant that they remove from digging. But some ants are different, and they're and different. And carpenter ants crave tunnels in wood, right? So there are different types of ants. But we want today to look at the first lesson we want to learn from the ant is how organized the ant is. There is, yes, there is a structure in the ant kingdom, if I might say so myself. So there are basically three types of ant in the colony, which is the term given to where they live. And before I go any further, let me tell you that the study of the ant is known as myrmecology. Yes, scientists have delved deep in the ins and outs of the ant and how they function in the ecosystem. myrmecology. So there are three types of ant in a colony. There's the queen, the workers, and the male. Three distinct types of ant, and each ant have their own role. And this is the first lesson that I want us to understand here on Sip and Chat this afternoon. In life, we must know our purpose. Wherever we are planted, our purpose must be known. Don't try to take on another person's responsibility. No, not in the ant kingdom. The queen is important for the reproduction of the kingdom. As a matter of fact, once a queen ant dies, that colony dies because she's no longer able to reproduce. So wherever we are, we must always understand our function and bloom where we are planted. You can admire other person's roles, whatever they are, but make sure that you are accomplishing your own mission. Everyone has their own specific job. The queen bee, as I said earlier on, she lays eggs and she populates the kingdom. Workers, they collect food, feed members of the colony, and enlarge the nest. And soldiers, the men, are large workers that defend the colony and sometimes attack ants who are strangers. All these hardworking ants are female. Now, males have wings to fly to another colony where they mate with another queen bee and die soon after. So every ant in the colony, they know their function. Know what is your function. And where there is no sense of structure, there's going to be anarchy. There's going to be anarchy. But in the ant kingdom, we see that there are three distinct roles that are carried out by the different ants. The queen bee, she reproduces. The male, he goes to another colony, he mates and he populates that colony. All right. And the workers, there are different type of workers. There are large ants that are soldiers, and then there are other ants who go and they make sure that they bring food to the colony. So a very important lesson. We must understand our role and we must know why we are here. Another lesson that we want to learn from the ant, says study the ant and be wise, is that I think we're embedded in the psyche of the ant is they understand that they cannot survive alone. Huh? And that a man is as powerful as his kingdom. So survival is never about an ant and an ant self. It's always about the kingdom of ant. And if you're in your house, it could be very hygienic. You could still look and you can study and watch certain traits of the ant and see how they move about. When an ant finds food, they love to share. They let the rest, they inform the rest of the colony that, hey, here is food. They release a certain type of chemical and they touch antennas together and alert other members of the colony that they have found food. That is important because as we're going to learn further, a lot of times the ant, they can carry a lot of weight, but by themselves, they can't carry this weight. But through sharing, they are able to engage the other ants and members of the colony to take the load with them. Very, very important lesson where we are now, because we must recognize that we can't do all things by ourselves, which is why we need to understand our role and see how best we complement each other. And it doesn't matter how we look alike. I've always reflected on a keyboard or a piano. When you look on a piano, you'll see the keys, there are two color keys. There are the black and there are the white. But each of those keys are important in creating, so many different melodies that we know can come from one keyboard, because even though they look alike, they produce different sounds. How important it is for us to understand our role and make room for those around us who may look like us but bring something different to the table. Very importantly as well, the ants are also very disciplined. Ants understand that there are different times and there are different seasons. So the ant it's very clear in the mind of the ant. You hear what I'm saying? That they know that there are different seasons. So in the season, for example, of winter, they know, especially when it gets very cold, the ant is aware that they will not be able to get food. So in the summer, when it's possible to secure as much food as possible, The ant then goes about securing and bringing to the colony as much food as they can. That is important for us. The lesson is to always make hay while the sun shines, because there are times when you'll not be able to do the things in a particular season that you are supposed to do in another season. Isn't the ant so small, an important creature, teaching us such valuable life lessons? They are truly amazing. The ant always has work to do for the colony. They work all day they work. Never a time of resting, always making room and always doing what they're supposed to do in the season, because there's a season when they cannot work. And it's so important, as I reflect on this, that the great man Solomon, he picked up on this as well. And he says, for everything, there is a season, a time for every purpose under the sun. So just like the ant who understand times and seasons and know that there's a time to gather food and a time to refrain from gathering food, as humans, we need to understand the seasons of our lives that we're in. Sometimes we are filled with energy and zest, and we can go and we can make the money and we can do this and we can do that. And we need to do that in the season when we can, because then there comes a time, which is why it's called retirement, when we need to retire. Our bodies naturally sometimes just retire and doesn't allow us the capacity to do the things that we used to do before. So we need to understand our season and tap into our season so that maximum benefit can be obtained. The ant is always working, moving here and there. They're never lazy and never refuse to do work. The ant on the move does more than a dozen acts. Always on the move. Lazio Tuz, always on the move. So that's another important lesson that we need to learn. Lesson 5 says to us, an ant never gives up. Now, this is like one of the most interesting lessons that I have learned from the ant. I've watched the ant for quite a while. And you notice that sometimes an ant, if you put like a piece of sweet, they love sweet. They really do. That's one of their favorite type of food. They love sweets. So what happens is that you'll have an ant, right? And he'll locate a sweet, a piece of bread or a piece of cake or something. Now, when the ant has the encounter with the food, the ant, I'm imagining he sizes up the food and he says, no, listen, I can't do this by myself. And you might see one ant who went to do the scouting locate the meal. But ladies and gentlemen, before long, they send off that chemical, and before long, you see a number of ants marching towards the food. You understand? So sometimes to accomplish our goals, we must understand that we cannot do it by ourselves. But the important thing is also is the persistency of the ant. They will take their time as they seek a meal, and they will take their time and they will borrow and borrow and borrow. Of course, they're not able to just immediately conquer a strong tree, but through persistency, borrowing and tunneling and making their way, a large tree can be seriously downtrodden by an army or a colony of ants. That is how powerful the little ants that we see. Over time, persistency. If the obstacle is too big, they get help. Don't be selfish, people. Don't be selfish. Help is also out there. So get help, because your spoils is not always all yours, but you can get a sizable portion if you make others a part of what you're trying to accomplish. It is such a marvelous lesson. The persistency of the ant. They go and they take their time, persistency. They take their time and they nibble there and they nibble there. Sometimes you want to go after something and you might not be able to just go at a bite size, but you take your time and you nibble and you nibble and you nibble until you're able. And it's such an amazing reflection this afternoon, because for many persons, we're into this get rich quick mentality. We're in the mentality that says, I have to get this now, very existentialist. It's here and now, and I want this and right now. And if it doesn't come now, my whole world has come crumbling down. That is not how the ant work. The ant is persistent, steadily pursuing that which he desires, focus, fix on course until successful. I always use that acronym for when I talk to people about being focused. Just fixity of purpose. I'm not going to be denied. I could be delayed, but I'm not going to be denied. Denied. So the ant teaches us never to give up. There's not an obstacle that is too big. It might be too big for me, but it's not going to be too big for the colony that I'm going to engage to help me to conquer this. Sometimes it's hard to get into what we're doing, but never give up. Never give up. Ants are fast, always on the move. They don't procrastinate. We said that earlier on. They don't procrastinate. One of the greatest challenge that mankind has is just the spirit of delay. Yeah, I can do it today, but you know what? I'll try to do it tomorrow, right? So I want us to put this in perspective. Whereas goals are sometimes not achieved immediately, procrastination doesn't make it possible either. So what we have to do is that we have to start and begin to take, even if that's the case, baby sized steps until we accomplish our goals. Procrastination is the COVID. It's the ill. It's that kind of thing that cripples people from accomplishing their goals. You remember how COVID had us locked down for days? Procrastination. Why put off for today? Why put off for today what you should do now? Why put off for tomorrow what you should do today? A lot of people do that, procrastination. All right. And some of you, as we go the school term, you have to study or you have an exam coming up. Every minute counts. For the ant, that is very important. Every minute counts because winter is coming. So every minute as we speak is very, very important. These are some of the life lessons that we want to impart here on Sip and Chat as we engage you. Every minute counts. Do not embrace the tomorrow. Today is a present. That's why it is a gift. So we have to learn to tap into that gift. Don't delay. My grandmother always said, delay makes to waste. We have to learn to embrace the now and do what it is that we can do. Because there are some things that come not back. And one of those things is time. And the ant teaches us that. So therefore, let us prepare in the spring of our life for the winter that is approaching. We don't want to get stuck in winter when spring is here because we didn't make any provision. Prepare for the springs in your life so that when the winter comes, you are able to survive. Very important lesson. Always plan ahead. The ant works all through to make sure that there is room for what is coming up. So it's a very strategic skill that the ant is teaching us. Small things, small animal that makes a whole lot of difference. We should always, I want everybody, I don't know where you're going to find the next ant, but look at the ant, notice them. I've always wondered when I see them attacking, like, as I said earlier, like a piece of sweet bread, cake, whatever it is, and they release that kind of chemical. And when they release the chemical, you see those ants coming. But when they're coming, they're very strategic in how they would corner, how they would place themselves to take up the meal that they're carrying to the colony. Very, very important. And they're hard workers. Did you know that ants can carry 10 times their body weight? So I'm sure that many of us who see the ant with us, we step on the ant, we just ignore the ant. But they can carry 10 times their body weight. Just because something is hard doesn't mean an ant will ever give up on it, and neither should you. And we spoke about it earlier in the discussion as well, about the whole attitude of teamwork. A lot of people think it's a cliche when we say teamwork makes the dream work, but it's true. Look at the ant. The same sweet that we mentioned earlier on, once it needs to get to the next location, can't be carried by one ant, but a colony of ants will come together and they will make the impossible possible. Are you selfish today? If you are selfish, you're only seeking to have your own dreams come true. The world will never be a better place if it's all about you. It has to be about the persons who are also part of the society. And so, even today, we want to salute every person in our society. We should never see anyone as being insignificant. We might see their role as insignificant, but think about it. What if that role was devoid from society? The persons who tidy your street, the person at the school or the office who does the bathroom. It's amazing. Some persons might don't even say hi or hello to them because as far as they're concerned, these people are what we call the low ebb people. They do the low jobs. But today, as we look at the small things that make a big difference, think about it. What if the persons who sweep our streets, they never come to work for a day, a week? Have you ever heard the complaints when the garbage trucks are not working? Oh, our community is in a deplorable state. But how often have we even reached out to that garbage collector, except for Christmas for some people, to just say thank you? So the purpose of the program this afternoon is to look at the small things like an ant, the roles that we consider insignificant, and understand like the ant teaches us that every role in life is very, very important. The CEO is able to survive because of the great coffee that the office attendant makes. And he will say too that he doesn't know how he would have been able to survive throughout the day if it wasn't for the coffee. I compliment the person in our office who makes our coffee every day because I know when I get to the studio for sip and chat, I need to have my cup of coffee. So we must learn to compliment those around us who add sparkle to our day. Teamwork, it makes a difference. Another important strategy that I've come to appreciate about the ant is the way they communicate. They do a lot of communication. We need to talk to each other. We need to make others know what's happening around us. Ants communicate by touching each other with their antenna. They show other ants where the food is by making path with their chemical pheromone that leads a scent that the ant follows. Some persons, if they find success in one area, they don't tell anybody else about it because it's all about me, myself, and I. They want to be the star of the show. So when success comes, oh boy, they want to gloat. Oh, I am the richest person and I have this and I have that. But what can we imagine a society if more persons were empowered, if more persons were accomplished, if the wealth was shared more? So communicating and sharing experiences is an avenue that can help others as they go through life and brighten their own day. So it's important for us to share about life and our life experiences and how those things are possible as it relates to helping us to accomplish our goals. I always find it so important to say, you know what? I found success by doing this. These were the formulas that I use. I love to share because it's a delight when others are able to benefit from your experiences, even your trials and your triumphs. When you share what has happened to you, some persons are like, well, I went through this, and I learned my lesson. It's time for you to learn your lesson too. No, you might have recovered, but another person might not be able to recover so well. So what about sharing your experience? The ants communicate and they let the other ant know that food is down the road and you can go and get it too. Are you selfish? Have you discovered a path for success and have only kept it to yourself? Or are you that kind of person who, once you've recognized that success is possible and that there's a formula, do you share it willingly with others? Those are some of the lessons that we have learned from the ant that we want to share with you this afternoon. It is so important for us to understand that even though we're different parts, like the good book says, we're all one body. And no body part is independent of the other. So we need to get these lessons. I think everybody should study the ant. They have an amazing four-part philosophy. That's what we want to wrap up. What are those philosophies this afternoon? Never give up. If at first you don't succeed, just try and try again. Always look ahead. Remember, winter is coming. So while you're in the spring of your life, make the best of it. Avoid procrastination. Get up off your feet and go and achieve. Always stay positive. Can't do it by yourself? Go and seek help. Each one needs an. Ants are bucket fillers. So those are some of the lessons that we want us to understand this morning, or this afternoon rather, as we reflect on the ways of the ant and how they assist us as we seek to make a difference in our own little world. Sometimes the big things are good, but the small things like the ant, they teach us such powerful lessons that can make a difference in our society. Like Solomon said, O ye sluggard, study the ways of the ant and be wise. For this month of Sip and Chat, we'll be examining a number of small things that make a whole lot of difference. Sometimes those small things are just a hug. So today, how can you make a difference in the world around you? The small things. I say to a husband and a wife, yes, the resources are important, but sometimes just a compliment can make a difference. Today, as we leave you from Sip and Chat, we want to encourage you and remind you the big things are good, the opulence is nice, but indeed, it is the small things that a small ant that can make a whole lot of difference if we look at the wisdom that lies in the small things. Once again, on behalf of our team here at Sip and Chat, it was indeed a pleasure to be able to join you. Never forget, in the little things, there is always a lesson to be learned. Thank you so very much.